Hi and welcome to a new video. Today I am going to be drawing some fairies with fruit, and I'm going to be using a mix of colored pencil and alcohol markers. So there's going to be a couple lessons in this video as far as the process goes. So first I just started with the base of pink colored pencil just to get the sketch down, and then I do kind of go over it to get some details in the strawberry, which ends up being a whole thing later, and that's a lesson in using reference. But right now I'm just kind of highlighting where I want some pink to show through. And then I do go in with some more colors, and then I start to do the details. So I go with the green to get the leaves down, and I am using Prismacolor. I use a combination of Prismacolor, Derwent, and what's the last one? I have some Holbein, and I think that's it. I have Faber-Castell as well. So use a combination of those. Some are wax and some are oil base. You can use either one. They do blend nicely together, so you don't have to worry about just sticking to one kind of colored pencil. And then I do take a Copic alcohol marker, and I just kind of get some more solid color down, just to give it a nicer blend. I like to lay down colored pencil just to kind of indicate what I want the undershadows to be, and I want, some yellow to peek through. That lets my brain know what I kind of want for the direction of the colors, because I didn't really plan this piece before I did it. I kind of just went all in, which probably isn't the best idea for me, but that's just what I ended up doing. And then, colored pencil I like to use underneath. And I also like to use it on top, just because I find that I can't really get really fine details with the alcohol markers, but they're really good for putting down a nice wash of color and just giving you a good base for putting colored pencils on top. I definitely am far from a pro with, I would say, most traditional media. I normally draw digitally, and I have been for probably like 10 plus years, so going back traditional is, a little tough. Remembering things or learning new things like alcohol markers is still kind of a new thing for me. Still a lot of learning curves there, and I like to draw very small. Like I like to draw small little pieces of art, so not being able to do that the way I want to with alcohol markers, which tend to bleed and spread a little bit, can be kind of tough for me because I like to get tiny little details. There's not really a story behind what I'm drawing. I just wanted to draw some cute little fairies, kind of like Disney inspired, I guess you could say, or at least Tinkerbell inspired. And I knew I wanted to get fruits in there somehow and some plants. So I just did a strawberry for this one, so it's like she's picking a big strawberry for her harvest. So now I'm just going back in to pick out some details with the colored pencil, and I'm introducing some blues to kind of contrast with the yellows that I laid underneath. talk about this strawberry that I'm about to render because I thought I knew what a strawberry looked like, but when I started putting the colors down, I was like, okay, wait, this isn't looking right. Because I know, if you look at a strawberry, it has very glossy highlights kind of around the seeds, which are kind of like a pale yellow, but they look deceivingly dark from the side. So it's kind of weird, like they're lighter in the middle, darker on the outside, depending on how you look at it. So I was thinking in my mind, okay, these are the seeds, and then I'll just keep the white highlights around. That'll make my life easier when I go back to kind of add some of the shadows in. But that definitely did not happen the way I wanted it to. And this was sort of one of the lessons, is that always use reference. I thought I knew what a strawberry looked like, but when I went back to look at this piece, and you'll see it later because I do cut to myself actually fixing it. It gets much worse before it gets better. I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, wait, this is not what a strawberry looks like. So I looked up a picture of a strawberry and I was like, okay, that's where I went wrong. So I totally messed up the highlights. And even though I had the right idea, I wasn't doing it quite right. So yeah, that's how bad it looks. I cut out a lot there because I was like, no one needs to see that it gets so bad. So at this point I knew it didn't look right, but I was like, okay, I just need to keep going, and I can always go back and fix it. You might wonder how you can fix it after getting it this dark, but I pull out a cool fun little thing called acrylic markers that are great at just covering up mistakes and letting you start over. And luckily this paper is pretty forgiving with that. So now I'm just laying down another base. She had a lot of yellow features, elements in her design that I wanted to kind of lay a nice base. Because that's the thing with white paper, is it's such a stark color to start out with that it can really deceive how you want a piece to go. I know normally if I'm painting, I almost never start with a white base. I normally need to lay down a background color, so I know how the shading is going to actually look accurate. So, but with this, it's a light piece. Like everything is pretty light colored, nothing's too dark. So keeping it white is fine, of course. So I wanted to get some blues and some yellows in her wings, just because they're probably quite reflective, whatever's surrounding her. And it gives it kind of a pretty gossamer effect as well. So now I'm just adding in her skin tone. I'm adding in some pinks, a little bit of orange, just keeping everything pretty light. There was something weird that happened with the alcohol markers. I don't know what happened, but when I laid this peachy color over the yellow color, it did some weird texture thing to her leg specifically. It like got kind of patchy looking, and I'm not sure why, because I think that was the only area that did that. And I kind of fixed it with some colored pencil. You kind of can tell right here that it's a little patchy looking. I mean, it's definitely user error, but it was just kind of weird. It was that one area. It might have been the way it was interacting with the colored pencil, because I think I laid a wax base, which I've never really had that happen before, so I'm not really sure why it did this time, but it did. But it's fine. I added colored pencil on top and it looked fine. So now I'm just doing some line art, some colored line art with colored pencil. Just adding some subtle shading. I wanted to keep it pretty simple because, like I said, it is kind of Disney inspired, which is typically cell shading. So I didn't want to go too much beyond that because I can tend to over render. So if I can stop myself, then that's pretty good. So now I'm just doing her hair. I'm gonna keep it gold. So now she's definitely looking more and more like Tinkerbell. And then I do add little strands here and there. I do want to keep everything pretty clean. I don't like to spend too much time on tiny little drawings like this, especially for a video where I'm speeding it up, but I don't want it, you know, to seem like I'm having a fit with my hand going so fast. I'm just doing like a kind of a turquoise for color for her dress. I thought it needed kind of another color because we've got yellows, greens, and then we've got the strawberry. But we needed another color in there just to kind of add another pop. So now I'm going back in with the alcohol markers. And I'm gonna let the music play out a little bit now. Okay, so that was a cut. So you can see not only am I in a new location, but I fixed the strawberry. So now I think it looks a lot better. It was kind of a pain because I had to go over it 3 times with a red acrylic marker, and it just wasn't being it wasn't being full coverage like I wanted it to. And then when I went back over it so I used like a light pink acrylic marker and then a white acrylic marker. It definitely took a lot of building up to get to the shine that it has now, and even the way it is now probably could be a bit shinier, but there also isn't anything else shiny in this drawing, so it probably wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to add more. So I just was like, Okay, this is good the way it is. But I am glad I fixed it because now it looks not quite so amateurish. I'm just taking some pink and kind of bringing it elsewhere just to kind of complement the strawberry. And then I'm adding some blues for some more of the shadows. And just doing some finer details. Like I said, it's quite a small drawing, so you gotta keep the pencils pretty sharp. Really go in there and kind of make things extra saturated so that they stand out. So now I'm going to do the second drawing. It's just a fun little frog with a little girl sitting on a lily pad holding a blueberry on top. Of course, she's a fairy as well. So I just thought it would be fun to introduce, you know, another element of size where you've got a frog, which is quite small, and then you've got the fairy who is, you know, a bit smaller than the frog. And then of course the blueberry as well. So this pencil, I quite enjoy the color. I think it's called Chartreuse, I'm not 100% sure. It's Prismacolor, so it is a wax based. But as I was drawing, I noticed, I was like, why is this so wibbly wobbly? And I noticed that the lead had broken at some point in the pencil itself. So I'm basically drawing on a prayer right now where I'm trying not to depress it too hard so that it actually breaks the lead. Yeah, and then I sharpen it and I think it's fine after that. So that's the sad tale of color pencils when you use them, is the lead breaks and then you've lost some extra lead, and some colored pencils are not cheap. Prismacolors aren't too bad, but some of the ones I have are a little bit pricier, and sometimes you can't always buy them singularly. So now I'm just adding some orange. I thought it would be kind of a fun color to complement the very yellowy green color. back in, just kind of refining some of the saturation on his body and his legs, kind of get that transition with the orange in a little bit more, and then going over some of the kind of bluish green pencil that I use just to kind of add more green to it. Now I'm gonna bring in a blue pencil just to add some nice shadows to it. With shadows, you usually want to go in with a more cool tone. So I'm just taking that green and bringing the saturation down and giving it a more muted look. And then I'm outlining some of it with the blue as well. And just to bring in some extra color too, because I felt like he was looking a little flat. I definitely could have added some more highlights just to make him pop a little bit more. Frogs usually look pretty glossy and wet, and I could definitely go back in with like a gel pen or a white acrylic marker just to bring that out more. But I didn't want to go too crazy because the little girl, she doesn't really have anything like that either, so I didn't want her to get lost, whereas the frog is kind of the standout part. Honestly, the whole page, I think he probably turned out the best of anyone on the page, which is weird because I think I can count on my hands how many times I've drawn a frog in my life. They're not usually my go-to animal to draw, but I thought he was cute and kind of fun to draw. So now I'm bringing in some of my Derwent pencils, just getting some more greens just to bring some more contrast because he was feeling very light, so we definitely needed some more shadows in there, and also to help some of his muscles pop. I noticed that frogs can be have really muscly looking legs, so I kind of wanted to highlight some of the leg muscles that he had. And this pencil was pretty good. It's like a very blue tone pencil, but it is green, but I like it quite a bit. pad. It definitely is probably the most saturated part, somewhat unintentionally. I am trying to bring it down a little bit with some blue. And now I'm doing a very pink wash for her since she's going to be very warm toned. So I want to do this as a nice base for her skin. The thing with alcohol markers is you should always swatch them before you use them, and wait as well, because they dry so differently to then what you first put down. And even sometimes the cap colors as well can vary quite differently. I know Copic usually is pretty good as far as the cap looking like what the color ends up being. Always some of the darker colors are not super accurate. I have some oohoo-hoos, and those ones definitely can be quite different. So I did a little jump, and I added some base colors for her wings and her hair. Kept it kind of a pale, kind of goldeny orange hair, and then I gave her pretty warm colored wings as well. I kind of have some regrets about her hair. I really like kind of the flat look of it, the way it is now, but I do go in with a much darker orange to kind of pick out some hair strands and go around it, and kind of add some waves to her hair to add definition. And I think it looked okay, but I do kind of prefer the flatness of it now, or at least maybe I could have reeled back on the details a little bit now that I'm looking back on it. But that's just what art is, you make mistakes and you learn, and they're just little drawings. I'm not selling them, so they don't need to be perfect. I think the less hung up you can get about them being perfect, the better. Especially recording a video of you drawing, at least for me, since it's been a pretty long time since I've done that. You can get kind of nervous and think less about what you're doing and more about how you're doing it. Sometimes that can ruin the creative process a little bit. So I'm just adding in the shadows now. I'm just going in with a pink to do the shadows, keep everything nice and warm. So now I'm to do the blueberry that she's holding. I don't lay any kind of base with this just because blueberries are almost kind of black. They're honestly, they're not blue at all. Even the inside of a blueberry is not blue. I didn't really want to go in with something too dark. I mean, this is already pretty dark, but just because nothing else going on is that dark, so I didn't want to suddenly bring in like a black color and then feel that I would need to add black to other parts just to kind of help balance it out. But this blue is pretty dark, but I do lighten it up with some acrylic marker, and I use the little blending marker that often comes with packs of markers, just to kind of pull out some of that color. And I'm also adding a little bit more orange to her hair, just because I felt like it was leaning too yellow, which I think in retrospect was fine, but again, just fussing. And this is where I start to add the details of her hair. I think I could have stopped maybe around here, or just outlining it and then adding a couple strands, and it would have been good, but I do add quite a bit. I did have a sort of a vision for it, so I was just trying to go with that vision, and I think it came out okay, but I think I was inspired by Aurora's hair from Sleeping Beauty. She has like this very interesting curl in her hair and at the bottom as well that I don't think I've ever seen done in any kind of drawings before. And the whole style of Sleeping Beauty is just very lovely with the shapes. And I think it's Mary Blair was responsible for a lot of the art, which explains why it was such a beautifully done film. So I do take inspiration from that, just for the hair, nothing else really. I'm not quite at that level. I'm just bringing the pink in and finishing up her outfit, adding a little bit more orange just because I felt like the pink was adding too many colors to the piece, especially since she had the pinks in her skin, and I kind of wanted to keep those as a standout, not have it blend in too much. And now I'm doing the sort of darker parts of the blueberry before I start to lighten it back up. And I was using sort of a reference this time, or at least I looked at a picture before I started coloring it, which was the mistake I learned earlier, so I am learning from my mistake. And just adding a couple darker spots. I'm keeping it pretty loose as far as shading goes. Trying not to get too wild, because I think the strawberry, even though I think it ended up looking good, it is the most rendered part, kind of stands out a little bit, which I guess could be a good thing if that's kind of the style that I was going for. And now I'm bringing in the blender brush, which is, I think, typically used to kind of blend colors together, but if you overuse it, it will pick up the color that you are dabbing it over, or brushing it over with, and it will basically kind of erase it. Using it on a dark color like this is definitely not the best way to go as far as preserving the blender brush itself, because you can see there's quite a bit of blue on the tip, but you can just kind of wipe it off on another piece of paper and it does get rid of most of it. So now I'm just adding a little bit of green. She has a little flower on top of her head, so just adding kind of similar to the flower I added with the strawberry. So now we're just finishing things up by adding some final details and outlines just to bring certain parts out and highlight things that got a little hidden. So thank you so much for watching. I do plan on making some more videos soon as I revive my channel. So please stay tuned, subscribe if you liked the video, and I hope to upload sooner rather than later, so stay tuned.